Hey friend, welcome to the Badass is the New Black podcast, where our motto is done is better than perfect. I'm Chrissy Chin, here on a mission to help you grow your business online, turn your leads into lifelong customers, and scale to six figures and beyond so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more. Most importantly, I'm a laid-back wife, a mom, a friend who started as a peds nurse, turned network marketer, and now a serial entrepreneur. This podcast is for ambitious people with an idea, a vision, but no idea how to get there. On this podcast, I'll give actionable steps to keep you moving forward while you learn new business strategies, better systems and processes, marketing, sales, all the things you need to build and scale a blissful business that keeps your pocketbooks growing. Grab a beverage, open up your notes app, and let's get to it. Let's welcome Claire Van Bemelen to the show. Everybody, you guys, this is the first time I've had my sister on the podcast, and the first person I probably have not had to tell them how to say your last name. Maybe because I grew up with it. I'm super excited to have you here. I don't have a bio in front of me. I was like, Claire, I need your bio. Just kidding. I think we got this. You guys have heard me talk about Claire before. We've done business together for a very long time. I was like going through my journey the other day and the 10 years of doing business, and pretty quickly Claire and I connected, like, let's do business together. I'm not going to say that our first business was a complete success, but we've made our way through. So Claire went to school to be a designer, interior designer, and she's always been a creative. I remember when we were younger, I wanted to be able to draw so bad, and I was just not the best. And then Claire's over here, like, doing all this amazing left-handed art with her artistic ability. I would
watch Lamb Chops just to do the arts and crafts corner.
Oh my God, I forgot about Lamb Chops. Amazing blast from the past. Well, we clearly, have been together for a long time, but yeah, you and Katie were the artists. I always wanted to be an artist. So that, led you on your journey, interior design, lots of steps later. And here we are. Health and wellness kind of crept in there, and you took a passion in that. And then here we are doing business together.
Yeah.
About to launch a program to a new community that we're super excited about. And if you haven't gotten on the wait list for how to build a wildly profitable website without knowing a thing about tech, it's time to get your name on that wait list. You can go to thechrissichin.com/website- masterclass. I'm going to teach you 3 things. The first thing is how to build a website without being tech savvy. Number 2 is how to turn your leads to customers on autopilot. And number 3 is how to build an engaged community so you have repeat customers. Either, your network marketers out there, you want them to get on your auto ship program and purchase every month, or coaches out there, entrepreneurs offering a service. You want them to keep buying every program that you're putting out there. So I'm going to teach you how to do that in the masterclass. And so in honor of that masterclass coming up on April 12th, I wanted to bring Claire on. We had Becca on last week, one of our copywriters and coaches in our Digital Duplication Academy program, to talk about copy. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, that's a great one. And now we're going to talk about design, because Claire is the design genius in all of our business ventures. She always has been. It's like, I've been like the ideas creative, like all over the place. And then Claire makes everything beautiful and functionable. So we make this great partnership where everything I'm not good at, we always say this, whatever I'm not good at, Claire's good at, and what Claire's not good at, I'm good at. So we're just kind of inseparable.
I always explain to people that Chrissy's the macro, I'm the micro. She's the big picture. I get it done.
Love it.
Yeah.
I get stuff done too.
You 1000% get stuff done, but like you're the one who's always thinking about ideas in the shower. And then, we come to the table and I have to, put the images together and, make sure.
Love it. So we're going to talk about website design. So we talked about website copy. Let's talk about website design, because I've seen a lot of websites out there where I go to them and I'm just like, oh, like I'm not excited to be here. And then I just kind of leave. right? And we were talking before, and you made this great statement. You were like, someone could have the best copy in the world, but if the design isn't aesthetically pleasing, or they're feeling overwhelmed when they're there because of the design, they're not going to stay and read your copy. And your copy is going to be what convinces them to opt into your free offering and get on your email list or buy your product or your thing. So let's dive in and talk about maybe one of the most important things that someone should think about when they are designing their website.
Well, important's hard, but I would say one of the first things to think about, because when I think about it, everything seems important in my brain. But the first thing to think about is really how you want to show up to your audience. So a lot of that is going to come down to figuring out who your audience is. And we do actually talk about this in Digital Duplication Academy. You have to figure out your brand identity and how you want to show up, not just how, the aesthetic, but like how you want people to feel when they come to you. And, I'm pretty sure the stats right now are you have 6 seconds to make an impression. Maybe it's even shorter at this point these days, but you have 6 seconds to make an impression when someone comes to your site. So in those 6 seconds, and even those first 3, everything above the fold. So that first section that you see before anyone starts scrolling, you need to show up and show people your personality, your energy, your whether you want to be playful or sophisticated. That all has to happen immediately. So the first step is figuring out what you want that to be and what you want people to get from that. And then from there, you can take a step back and start deciding, color scheme and things like that. So I would say first, jotting down how you want to show up. Who you are as a personality and how you want to present yourself as a business. That's definitely the first one with design.
Yeah.
And, we do work through that a lot with you for those who are part of our students who are part of the program. We definitely spend a lot of time going through that before anyone touches any colors.
Yeah. So once people figure out, okay, I have more of a playful vibe, or I have more of a serious vibe or a sophisticated vibe, how do you recommend them like taking that first action to move towards figuring out what their colors are or their fonts are?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to finding an inspiration. You can piecemeal all these ideas and put them together, but it really helps to draw from inspiration. So say, for instance, you're an outdoors person and you have more of an earthy, crunchy granola vibe about you. Maybe just pick like a fall leaf that you find, right? Whether you actually physically go outside or find an image on the internet, and take a look at what those colors are. You might have some burnt auburns, some tans, there might be some browns in there, and pick 1 or 2 from that, and then add in some neutral tones. So a lot of people will think, I want to like have colors of the fall, and they'll pick like a bright red and a bright orange and a bright yellow, and then their base colors will be like this deep brown, and they'll add maybe like a blue for a fall sky, and it's too overwhelming for the eye. You really want to simplify it and bring it down to 1 to 2 focused main bold colors, and then add very, very light neutral tones. Now, there are some outliers. I mean, that's like a general rule of thumb that I think for someone who doesn't have a design eye can start from and work off of. There's obviously, you see very successful companies and designs that have very bright colors, but that can get really messy on a site if you're just starting out from scratch and you're not familiar or comfortable with design aesthetic. We have some students that when they start off, before we really get into how to curate your site so it does have a nice cohesion, they'll, throw their pinks and their purples all next to each other as you scroll down the page. And it doesn't give the viewer an opportunity to take a break from all of that. So, from one simple thing, maybe it's just one picture. When I was putting together Digital Duplications brand, I found a picture of this like water, almost maybe even oil painting of a river in Italy. And it was these like terracotta and pinks and some like seafoam greens. And we landed on these muted greens and pinks. And so like, that's our brand. We ran with it, and everything else is just this really light white and tan color. So that would be, I would say, stick with one simple inspiration, and then just pull one or two bright colors, and everything else kind of keep neutral.
I found that my closet was my inspiration. Once I kind of landed on, kind of a main color and a secondary color, I was like, oh, yeah, clearly this is my brand, because I literally, the only shirts that I own are like this green that I'm wearing right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see this green. And then like, I don't even know. I have
blush pinks.
Yeah. Blush pinks, like a light, not a dark burgundy, but like a really light, like getting into that pink. And like clearly every shirt that I'm wearing, it looks like I'm wearing the same thing on every reel, on every podcast episode. Cause I literally have like 6 different shirts, this shade of green. I'm just really drawn to it. And so it makes sense. Like when you go to my website, you'll see these colors, or I can bring my branding colors in through the photos of me on my website. So if you feel like you're struggling and you're like, I don't know what colors I like, go look in your closet and see. If you're like a fashionable person that does a lot of different types of fashion and clothes, it'll probably be harder to pick out. But if you're just like a regular person like me, that's like I don't consider myself super fashionable, and I just kind of buy what I like, you'll notice a trend in that closet. Like, oh, clearly I'm a blue person. Like I have every shade of blue in a shirt. Right. Yeah. So I think that's a good kind of place to go look, or around your house, different things that you're purchasing.
Well, we had a student that she was working on her logo and her brand guide cohesively. And she had a bunch of blues and tans, and then this one like bright cherry red. And when she was working on her logo, she really wanted this like painted heart to be a part of her logo. And she thought that she needed to bring in that red because of that heart. And we took a step back, and I go, was there a reason that you were drawn to that red? And she's like, no, but I felt like the heart needed to be that color. I'm like, well, let's strip the literal, idea of color, and let's change that heart to a blue behind your name, because she's self-branded, and let it be a monochromatic color scheme. And when she stepped back and looked at all of her images of herself that she was pulling for her site, every single outfit she was in was blue. So it really worked well to just like get rid of the confusion and complication, stick with just your favorite color. And lean into that, because then when you get to the design part and you do bring in your photography into your site, it'll all work seamlessly.
Love that. You mentioned, the eyes need a break from things. And so same with copy. And I can't remember if Becca and I talked about this in copy. I think we did, like being able to break up the copy on your website. That's part of design. So that kind of comes into play. You have the copy written, and then you have to design the copy. So breaking up that copy, and you've mentioned, being able to give the eye a little bit of a rest with the colors. So can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So when I'm putting together a template for, a client, I try to, or working on a project for a client, I try to kind of do every other section is going to have some sort of subtle contrast. And through that, almost every other section that has some sort of color to it, or tint or hue, will also maybe have a bit of a texture. So that changes it. So it's not just like, say, for instance, tan is my neutral alternative to white, right? So I have tan and then white and then tan and then white. Mm-hmm. So rather it's tan, white as we're talking backgrounds. And then the next section is going to be maybe like a washed wood that's very muted. It's, white and tan and has some texture, and it's going to be behind, an image with some bold text so that can actually be legible over that texture. You really want to be mindful of too much visual texture. So that's where some photo editing comes into play. I always suggest Canva. It's a really great tool to be able to edit your visuals for your site. But you want things to kind of move through the page. So say, for instance, you actually have a bold color. So my personal brand is our golds, oranges, and purples. So I'm going to have some backgrounds that are just this like plum purple, which is like a fairly bold color. And then on top of it, maybe my power words in a few different font styles. Underneath that, I'm going to go right back to like a really light tan or a white, and then maybe have an image within that section that has me standing in front of a gold wall. So we're using my colors, but we're not using them all for the background of each section of that site. You're pulling in colors through images and accents. Mm-hmm. And then with all of that said, I always err on the side of start with all black or very dark gray font, and then find places that you can maybe put in a color splash with the font itself. I think that it can get really busy if you try to do, like, say, a blue over a pink, and then underneath that you have a gray, and then, changing up the colors a lot really gets confusing for the eye.
Yeah. I'm such a visual person that I'm like trying to imagine, as we're talking, I'm really realizing, gosh, it's so hard to like talk about this and visualize it as we're just talking through. I'm such a seer. I have to see it. But I totally understand what you mean and what you're saying. And so really err on the side of not stacking bold colors, but lighter colors, and bringing in those bolder colors more sparingly kind of throughout.
Yeah. And there's a time and a place for bold colors if that's your brand too. I mean, if your brand is bright and bold, again, golds, gold and oranges, we did a photo shoot a couple of years ago in Atlanta, and there was this wall, I think it was the anthropology wall. And it was this like, again, like this terracotta type, like sponge, bright orange. And I just want to use that in all of my pictures because it really brings in bright colors. But I wouldn't necessarily take that color and use it as like a font or even necessarily a backdrop. I want to bring it in sort of sparingly throughout, sort of sprinkled in.
Okay. And so can you touch a little bit more on the reasoning behind like needing to break up those colors? Like you mentioned it very briefly, but I want to go back and like re-stress the fact that like we can't have it be overwhelming for the person because they will leave. Like they will. Yeah. So if you want to touch on that a little bit more.
Yeah. I always think of like a picture, back when the internet was just starting and like kids were trying to code on MySpace, and
I wasn't a big MySpace person. Like, I don't think I ever had a MySpace page, but my best friend definitely did. You definitely did.
Yeah. And you could code music. I think I had these like hearts falling in the background, and you could pick all the different fonts, or I don't know, for those of you who are of our generation, the away message for AIM.
Yeah.
So people you'd put like a song lyric up, and it would have like the title and first verse would be Comic Sans in a pink. And then the next section would be like a bold blue. And the next section would be like a neon green. Like
that's like a design nightmare.
It's a design nightmare.
Like, what are all these colors? What are all these fonts? Like, my brain can't process. I can't. Okay, I'm leaving. I'm just leaving. I can't.
That's an
I can't
example.
Yeah.
That's an example of what not to do. But when I look at some sites and I see that, I see like for some reason, I don't want to call out a whole industry, but when I'm looking for a groomer, for some reason, grooming websites are very archaic and they're just like a landing page with all of the information and like stock photos of a dog here and a dog here floating nowhere. And just they're trying to separate an entire paragraph by just like changing the font in every single section. And it just, your eyes get so exhausted and you don't know where to go first. When you think about the way that we consume information now, I mean, Twitter caused us to, get the gist in 140 characters. Clickbait is something where a header is what people will read and assume the entire article by the header. So you need to make sure that on your site, you're doing a similar thing where say you're moving to another section and for instance, connection points. So you're trying to connect with your ideal client, your audience, and you want to make sure that they feel heard. You're going to have a header that's going to be, maybe more bold or in a different script font. And then underneath that, you're going to have bullets. Underneath that, you're going to have a sentence that segues into a call to action button. So there's 4 different sections of design in that one section that's very clear. Header, bullets, transitional, this is what I'm going to do for you. And then this is what you do to receive that, service, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people will do one big paragraph and just like talk about the issues that people might be having in a sentence. In like 5 sentences, and no one will look at that and find, just by visually looking, find any sort of importance. Yeah. So to call out the importance through design.
Yeah. Yeah. So Becca and I did mention that, that this week we would talk about some of that because the copy is the copy, but you also have to design the copy. So not only focusing on your color aesthetic, picking out your fonts that are legible. Okay, you guys, the cursive font is like so in, but pick one that I can read. There are a few people, I kind of feel bad, like I should send them messages on Instagram. Like, just by the way, I actually always scroll past your post because it's too hard for me to read it. And I don't have the patience to like focus really hard to like read this script. I'd rather just move on. And so making sure that your fonts are legible, that's part of design. So when you're picking a font, you may love it to death. You're like, I must have this font. Like, this is the best thing ever. But you have to think about your reader and how they're consuming it. Can they read this? And then, like we always work on like, having a couple different fonts, but like having them be very clear and using those accent fonts very sparingly on your website.
Yeah. So in the program, when we're going through the brand guide, I stress that you want to pick 3 fonts. One is your header, one is your accent, and one is your body. And for your header and your body, you want them to be, when you're picking the font, you want to make sure you have thin, medium, and bold options, and the capability of doing uppercase and lowercase.
Okay. So wait, let's stop right there just to make sure everyone gets it. So there are certain fonts that are only available in like a bold, or the font can't be bolded, right? Yes. So what Claire's saying is you want to make sure that the font you're able to type and add that element. So having a lighter feature where it's skinnier, a normal, or being able to bold that font, because we're going to use bolding and italicizing and all of that in the design of your copy. So if you're stuck like, ooh, this font can literally only be one thickness, then you're going to struggle a little bit being able to design. So that's what she means by making sure there's like a thin, medium, and bold. And then what was the other one?
You could ditch the medium too. You could do thin and bold, but you just want to make sure that the thin isn't so thin you can't see it over colored, right? And then, so that is for, and then all caps and lowercase. You want to be able to, so if you did pick a font, say you picked a header font that was all caps, you were definitely going to be using that sparingly.
Yeah.
You're not going to be using it for a sentence.
You mean
right?
we shouldn't be shouting at everyone on our website?
So, but those are things that people will be like, oh, I like this font, I'm drawn to it. And then they'll go to their site and copy it in, and it can't be lowercase. And they're like, well, this is the one I picked, I'm just going to stick to it. And then they're yelling at their audience.
Right. So, okay. So uppercase and lowercase. And sometimes we don't even think about that. And then you get too far in, you're like in love with this font.
Yep.
You guys, it's not a tattoo. Okay. You can change it. You must change it. If it's too hard to read, and get feedback from people, and also knowing your audience. This is why it's really important to know your audience. We've had students that are, on the older side, and they're like, it's a little bit hard to read. Claire and I like to use these gray font colors instead of black and or lighter colors. And we've had some feedback. Hey, it's kind of hard to read that because it's a lighter color. So we have to, oh my gosh, didn't think about that. Of course, we're attracting people that are, maybe having a harder time seeing in their later stages in life. And so we have to keep that in mind. So with your audience, your target audience, do you have to be mindful of that? We have a lot of people who are talking to an older generation, retirement age. And so picking a very easy font to read, and asking people that are your ideal customer, get some feedback on it, or friends that are, do you have trouble reading this? Come ask me, send me a font. Don't care. On Instagram, send me a message. Hey, can you read this font? I'll be honest with you. Okay. Yeah. I might not call you out and send you a DM, if we don't really know each other, by the way, your font, I can't read it. But if you send it to me, I'll give you honest feedback on it.
So that's for the header and the body. Now the accent, you have some more flexibility and playfulness with that. But a few things to keep in mind with your accent font. One, so I like to actually use power words. So we go over this actually, the program as well. Pick your 4 to 5 power words, things that describe who you are as a brand and how you want to show up. And if that is say for instance, your power words are compassionate, lighthearted, playful, energetic, you may have more of a cursive, youthful, not a script from, Old English, but a playful, fun, modern cursive font. Mm-hmm. If your brand is bold, sophisticated, strong, courageous, you're probably going to go more with maybe an all caps bolded accent font, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But one huge thing to keep in mind is if you are planning to use it for any sort of statement or thought, write it out, write a sentence, right? Hi, my name is Claire. And I like to, write it out and see if you can read it. And if it's overwhelming or not. Mm-hmm. Because you could type out A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and all of the letters look pretty, but the minute you write a sentence and you create words with that, it may be very hard to read or not actually feel the way you think that it is. You may pick a cursive, and when you write it out in a sentence, it looks like a little kid's handwriting. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, that's not really the energy I'm going for, right?
Right.
So definitely trial and error your fonts, because those really are going to show up in everything, not just your site, but your brand, your logo, all of your marketing material, everything you use, where you want to show up visually, you're going to be using that. So you want to make sure they're flexible and versatile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love this. I'm curious, if you're watching on YouTube, in the comments, tell me below if you already have a website or you don't have a website, but you've been wanting to build a website, but you just don't really know what to do. I would kind of love to see where you guys are at in terms of this. I definitely see 3 different stages of people with websites. One, they don't have a website yet because they're like, I have no idea what to do. Claire and I were there years ago. So they just kind of avoid it, but they know they need one. And then the second person is they've sign up with some type of website platform and maybe made a very basic site using a template, but never really have done anything with it. And so they're not really leveraging their website. And then there's 3, someone who has built a website and is using it, but they're not generating, growing a big list with it or generating profits from it because they just haven't gotten any professional help in terms of like, is the copy, am I attracting the right person, or design? Like they know nothing about design and they haven't even thought about these things. So I know that last week's episode on copy and this episode on design is going to help you either refine some of your design or start to think about when you're doing your brand and your website, what it can be. So I just would love to see in the chat. And then if you're listening on the podcast, you can of course send me a message if you want, because I'm just kind of nosy like that and curious. But these were super helpful. And I mean, we could talk about this stuff for hours. We have lots of lessons on this in the program. So I kind of want to leave it there and just to not overwhelm people. Like we've talked a little bit about colors, bringing in your personality, maybe how to start finding your colors. On there, talked about fonts, designing for the website. So I kind of want to leave it at that. Is there anything else that you were like, man, we really, really need to make sure that they know this before they leave this episode?
Well, I think the one thing that will put you set you apart from other sites that are underwhelming is strategically putting in visual animation, which we do build that into our templates and make sure that that's something that we talk about quite a bit. So these might be words that are over your head if you're not familiar with design, but like a parallax is something where you have a section with a full image in the background. And as you scroll up, it sort of stays there. So the site is scrolling past it. Adding a video in the background of a section breaker, allowing text to slide in so that not only, especially if it's like a simpler section where it's just like a neutral or white background, maybe an image, you have the text slide in so that people are like, oh, my eye needs to go there. So there's definitely things you can do. And most platforms have these features to be able to find the places on your site that are feeling like they're lacking luster and strategically add what's called animation in to bring the eye to it as they scroll through. So
yeah, I love that. Totally forgot about that animation. And I love watching you and Pam kind of go through with the students and like adding these suggestions as you're reviewing their design once they've kind of gone through the trainings and they've put it together, and then you're reviewing it for them and giving them feedback. And even just the littlest thing like, hey, have that text slide in from the side. Or someone goes, I mean, you've built this into the template, so, you're not doing it too much or too little, but we have had a couple people come in to the program who already have sites. And then it's like sliding in, jumping up, like every little thing is happening. Yes. Or maybe you're experiencing that on a website that you go to and it's like everything is moving, jumping all around. And you're like, whoa, what's going on? So like there's a thing of too much and then there's a thing of too little. So there's like a happy medium.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how long your site is to scroll through. I usually pick 2 different types of animations, and it depends on the platform, what they're going to call it, but like a fade in right or fade in left or fade up and down. So like fade is one where you're like, something's coming into the page, and a zoom. So zoom out. So like you want an image to like show up, right? Like just those 2. We don't have to like spiral anything in or, like you could go crazy with them. Just pick 2 and then use them sparingly, take a break between the animations. Yeah. So that was the other one. I mean, that would be the 3. Use colors sparingly, pick your bolds, one, maybe 2 bolds, and then make sure your font is very legible.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So I'm super excited. The doors are opening very soon to Digital Duplication Academy. You guys have started to hear me talk about this program. If you're following me on YouTube, if you're not, go over there, the Chrissy Chin, hit subscribe. Or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe. But I've even shared some behind the scenes of Claire working with one of the students on her freebie design. So you can kind of see how we work together. So if this feels really foreign to you and you're like, oh my God, I feel like this is overwhelming. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, great, I learned some of these things, but like, I still need help. This program is going to be for you. We are kicking off and opening the doors with the free masterclass. So I'm not keeping that a secret, you guys, that the doors are opening wide open with that masterclass. So I'll tell you more about the program in there. But before I do that, I'm going to teach you how to make your website wildly profitable. Because we don't just want a pretty website with some words on it. We want it to grow your business. We want it to help build your community. And whether that means you're in network marketing or you're an entrepreneur, you're doing other things, you're a coach, you offer services, we want people to come to your site. We want them to be like, wow, this design looks amazing. I'm going to stay and I'm going to read. Oh my gosh. In that first sentence, I know like I'm connecting to this. And we want them to get on your email list, right? We want them to, end up purchasing what you have. So I'm going to teach you some of these strategies in this masterclass, how to build a wildly profitable website without knowing a thing about tech. So you're going to get my strategies and Claire's strategies of how we've built and scaled a really, really successful business that we're really proud of, and now multiple businesses. So don't forget to register for that class. It's happening April 12th, 8 p.m. Go to thechrissychin.com/website-masterclass. If you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description below. If you're listening on the podcast, head over to the show notes or just type it in the URL. It's going to be super valuable for what you're doing. And if you already have a website, that's okay. I think you'll come and you'll learn some things in that masterclass as well. So if you're not tech savvy, you're like, I need some help. This masterclass is for you. We're going to be there. I'm going to be there teaching it. Claire's going to be there with me, kind of helping out with the comments. So we have a lot of fun doing this masterclass and we're excited to open it up to everybody and bring it to you guys. So super pumped about it. Claire, thank you for being here on the episode for the first time. I think we're probably going to be doing more episodes together, sister.
Yeah, I love it. Before this, we were talking, she was like, this is the first time I haven't like written questions down and stuff. I'm like, they're going to get to know the real us.
That's right.
Hanging out.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. For those that maybe have just stumbled upon this episode, maybe on YouTube, Claire and I are sisters. So if you can see us, we do get asked a lot if we're twins. And then we always play, these are like little fun facts, like post episode. Then we always play the who's older game, of course, and I give it away because I'm like, okay, but who's older?
She's the one that asks.
Exactly. Right. If they were smart, they would realize like the older one's asking who's older because she wants to be younger. Right. No, but we're not twins, but we're very close sisters. There's 4 of us. 3 are blonde, 1's a brunette. So we always have fun too with pictures. And we always say one is not like the other. Katie just sent one the other day that was like, one of these things is not like the other. And it's like 3 blondes and the brunette.
We all had short hair, bobs.
Me and Gary looked basically like triplets. And then there was Katie. So we have a lot of fun together. Claire and I have loved doing business together, love serving this community. So I'm excited to do a whole lot more with you guys with Claire and bring her back on the podcast. So we will see you at the masterclass, April 12th. At 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're listening to this in the future, I'm sure there's going to be a wait list for another one or something else special for you. So head over to the show notes or the description below this video. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and we'll see you guys later. Thank you, Claire. Bye-bye.
Everything.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got some value out of this episode, I would love some support. And the best way to do that, so I can keep showering you with loads of actionable tips, is to hit that subscribe button. Leave a review or a comment if you're on YouTube, and share this podcast with a friend. And when you share it with a friend on social, please tag me so I can reshare your share in my stories. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out. I appreciate the heck out of you for showing up. And now it's time for you to take imperfect action so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more.